Hi, I'm Launi with Learn Law for All, and today we have Nicole Stoutner with us.
You.
Nicole is my partner from Sheldon and Stoutner, and today she's going to talk with us about prenuptial agreements and postnuptial agreements. We just did a CLE on it, so I just wanted to unwind a little bit of that in here. Now, as a background for Nicole is the chair for the Family Law Executive Committee for the Arizona State Bar. She was on the executive committee. Were you the chair for the Maricopa County Bar before?
Yeah, at one point,
okay.
Yes. Not today,
now, but
yeah, in the past,
in the past, yeah. And so she does a lot with teaching and educating lawyers, which I'm so thankful that she's willing to talk with us today and do a CLE, because I just appreciate it so much. She's a great presenter. As usual, Nicole and I are only licensed in Arizona, so anything we discuss is Arizona, though it can be, you know, the information is useful in other ways nationally also, but listening to this podcast is not creating an attorney-client relationship, and this podcast is for information purposes only. So thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Sure, I'm so glad to help, and if I can, I'm really excited to maybe give some information.
Okay, so why don't you just tell us first what a prenuptial agreement is?
Well, a prenuptial agreement is an agreement between parties, or I guess I want to point out that there's two types of agreements. I call them marital contracts or marital agreements. There's prenups, which are agreements between a couple before the marriage, and postnups, which are agreements between the couple but after the marriage. And essentially what they're meant to do is provide some clarity and protection for the couple if they ever divorce or legally separate, or if one of the spouses died.
Okay, and so I know we went into this at length, but do you have any thoughts on, like, if somebody says, hey, I want you to sign a prenuptial agreement, what are your first thoughts that they need to and you call them the outed person, right?
The out spouse, yeah.
The out spouse.
Well, usually what I find is in a prenup situation, one party wants it, the other party may not want it or is hesitant, right? And usually the party that wants it is the party that has more to protect, because what prenups and postnups do are really kind of protect financial issue, protect people's finances and tell us how the law will, apply to this case. So the out spouse would be the other party, the hesitant party, the party with less, the party that, may not want the prenup.
And so do you have any advice for them?
My number one advice is get a lawyer. I hope that's okay. So, and here's why. I mean, not only is having a good lawyer that has done many prenups, not only is having a lawyer important because they will walk you through what's needed, they will advise you as to the law, they will make sure you understand the terms, but also a lawyer is really many times required to sign a prenup or a postnup. If you don't have one, it can invalidate the agreement. So, I know that there's a lot of prenups and postnups you can download online, just like you can download a promissory note shell or something. And I've seen them in litigation, and I have not seen one upheld that somebody got off a website somewhere and printed and just both of them sign it. I mean, having a lawyer will give it the formality that it needs, and it will help ensure that it's valid if you ever actually need to refer to it at the time of a divorce or legal separation or death.
Nicole, that's a really great point, because sometimes in some cases that I've had where I've had I'll call the outed party, the other party gave them money to pay me because their attorney told them to, right? Their attorney
also
said,
because maybe they have the money. Yeah.
Right. Well, they have the money, and they want to make sure that the agreement is upheld. Yeah. And the best way to do that is to make sure that there's an independent attorney for the other person.
Exactly.
Now,
so the issue with that is, I, as an attorney, I don't mind if it happens, but I need to make sure to my client that they understand that happens, and make sure that they're okay with that happening, and let them know that this is not going to interfere with my ability to provide you advice or my job advocating for you, the out spouse. So I think it can happen. I think you need to be very clear in how how it happens and make sure the client is on board. And I would do that in writing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% with that, because you don't want them to feel like, oh, because he's paying or he gave her the money. And I'm saying her, but that's typically what it is.
Yeah.
Now you're working for that other party, and
Yeah.
you're still working for them. You still have a contract with them. And then you had said your advice was to get a lawyer. And again, I agree. And I think for a couple of reasons, and we talked about this in the CLE, was that a lawyer's going to tell them what they're giving up, which they just may not know. They might know that, look, somebody's saying that they're not getting spousal maintenance, but if they don't know what they were entitled to in the first place, then they don't know what they're giving up, right? And I think that's where a good lawyer comes in and says, look, this is what the law is.
Right.
And then
I think that goes to what, like I said at the start, what is a prenup and a postnup? A prenup and a postnup is this couple saying, we don't want to follow the law of our state. We want to follow our own law, that we're making up our own rules, but they still need to know what they're giving up. They need to know the law of their state before they decide to make their own. And really the best way to do that is to get a lawyer. I mean, you can look things up, but I will also say that many things you find online are incorrect. I don't know how many times, and I know you know this too, people come in and they say, well, this is, clients, this is what I found online. It's not right. Just because you found it doesn't mean it right. Websites are old, some of those lawyers may not even be around anymore that you're referring to. Don't refer to those websites and just expect that to be enough. It's not.
That's a really great point, in that, look, laws change every single day. So
Yes.
even what we say here today could change tomorrow.
Right.
But also it's really important to know, don't use AI. Don't use AI to create a prenup, because they have been proven to just manufacture, they call them like phantom laws. They just manufacture their own laws and their own facts, and they just take that out of there. So
I can tell you, I actually I asked ChatGPT to do one time just to see. And they'll give you some concepts. And at the bottom of every ChatGPT message where you're asking for legal stuff, they'll say, hey, we don't know what we're talking about. Make sure you get a lawyer, because we can't do this. We should not be the person you're relying on. We're an artificial intelligence and our scope of information is limited. ChatGPT actually stops learning after 2017. So, listen even to the AI that you plan on using, listen to it, because they will tell you that they're not prepared for this, and they're not.
And I think somebody tried to do like an appellate brief, right?
Yeah.
On that, and just came up with these bizarre laws that weren't right. So don't do that. Now, I've used it. I've actually used it for like a base for contracts, just to make sure that I've got everything on there. And that was kind of interesting. It did a pretty decent job. But if you want, there's a lot of stuff it doesn't get on there. It's things that it doesn't know that it needed.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I've seen it in that case, the case you're talking about, it was a brief. And he literally, the lawyer that did it used GPT to write the brief, and it came up with cases that did not exist. That's what happened. I mean, they were cases that had never existed anywhere. I mean, so I think, I don't know how ChatGPT gets smarter all the time. The way it works is it's learning. So maybe, it was teaching itself, but that is really scary. If you think about that, I mean, it's literally, it's not real and made it up.
Yeah. And that's the problem. I think it talks about the same thing for medical advice, right?
Yeah.
Don't, I'm not giving you medical advice. Still talk to a doctor, but this is what I found on this issue.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk real quick about, you do this thing for signing that I love, when people are signing their prenuptial agreements. Can you just describe that?
So, yeah, we just talked about this, and I didn't know you loved it so much, but now I know. Okay. So after years of litigating the validity of prenuptial agreements, I came up with a little system that I use at the signing of a prenup. And it protects the lawyer but it also protects the client, and it's something that they can use down the line to show, to enforce the prenup. So the idea is, after we've discussed the prenup, we've signed it, all that stuff, or I mean, after we've discussed it, we've come up with agreement, not signed it. We've come up with an agreement. We're all in the same room, physically in the same room. The two lawyers, the two people, the couple signing it, and a notary. And sometimes I will have a court reporter and or a video reporter. So these are like court reporters that do it by video sort of, and make a video along with the transcript. So I'll have them all in the same room, and I will go through a series of questions before I have them sign. And the questions are designed to sort of address things that come up that could invalidate the prenup. So I actually emailed them to you because we were talking about this in the other case, but I'm looking at them right now. I've got a question about their health, whether they took any medications that day. When did you first talk about it? Because one of the things is we want to show that they had thought through the prenup. How long have you talked about it? Did you get sufficient legal advice? Do you understand what you read? Did you read it from start to finish? Do you think the agreement is fair? Is anyone forcing you? Are you under any stress in any way to the point that you don't feel like you can voluntarily enter into this agreement? And then we talk about disclosure. Are you okay with the disclosure? Are you okay with, what the other party gave you? Is there more that you want? Do we need to stop this and do more? So I go through those questions. Each party answers them. I record it. If there's a court reporter there, they're transcribing and recording it. And then we sign the prenup, and I give to the parties that recording and or that transcription. And I think that addresses a lot of the concerns that will come up later if the validity or the enforcement of the prenup is ever litigated. And I've had cases where people said, I was under so much stress. And the other party says, well, I don't know, I wasn't there, because they signed it in two separate sittings. And that's why I'm like, if they had what I did, they could say, well, I was there. You were asked if you were under stress. Here's what your answer was. I have a video of you that shows you weren't under stress. You were happy as could be, those types of things. So, it doesn't take that long. And I think it helps. I think it helps everyone and also I think you mentioned this, there's a formality to it. So people realize, like, there's a formality when you sign a will or a trust, and there's a formality for this, because this is a binding and formal and serious agreement. And you need to understand that this isn't just you notarizing. I recently had to notarize a thing for my daughter to participate in a sport. It was like some kind of, I thought that was so weird, like a release for her for sports. And I thought to myself, I mean, this is the same formality that we would use for a prenup, is notarization. And that can't be right, because, this is, yes, you can do diving is what it was for. But this other one is you are agreeing to something that will affect you for the rest of your life. So I think we need to understand the formality. I think a signing ceremony does that a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think I do love the formality of it. And I was talking to Nicole earlier about that I'd covered a case for her, and she had this list of questions for me and had everything set up. And I loved that. Like I really hadn't done that. I hadn't had a lot of the issues before, but I know that you had some big litigations on other people's prenups before in the past. And so this is kind of what you came out of it with. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm so happy to help.
All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.